Hi everybody and welcome back to my channel. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Richard. I'm a teacher, English teacher from England, a teacher trainer, I'm a published author, and above all I am passionate about helping you to become the best teacher that you can be, to have more fun, more freedom and more fulfillment in your teaching, and to make a bigger impact on the lives of your students. And in this video today, I'm going to share with you what I think is the, capital T in the middle of a sentence, is the number one secret to success in English language teaching. Okay, success is subjective, but after kind of 15 years of teaching, since doing my Delta, this is what I consider to be the number one thing that I see good teachers, which separates good teachers from great teachers, good teaching from great teaching, and a little bit of learning to lots and lots of learning in the classroom. Stay tuned to find out what that secret is. I think you'll be quite surprised about what it is. And if you want to know more about how you can continue your development and become an even more effective teacher, a high impact teacher, charging more for your classes, keeping more students, getting more student referrals, then I recommend that you check out the full course, which is my Powerful Planning Advanced course on my website. That's englishforpositivechange.com. Okay, enough from me. Here comes that big secret. 3 secrets to achieving success in TEFL. The secrets, really, these are things that, so I've been teaching for 15 years, 10 years post Delta, and I think even when you complete the Delta, you feel unprepared for life after the Delta. And so these 3 secrets are really the practical results of 10 years of teaching since I did the Delta in International House in London. So I do hope this is going to be of value to you. It's kind of a snapshot of those 10 years in terms of what really works, what really gets your students fired up, engaged. And for those of you like Clara who are starting a business in teaching, what I think are the ingredients that are really important for adding value, and that can equate to how much you charge for your classes and the confidence that you have in the product and the service that you're providing if you do decide to go and work for yourself, which I'm sure a lot of people are doing at the moment. So without further ado, I'm going to say that probably about 10 times. The first secret. Okay, I'm going to reveal the first secret now. The first secret is to stop teaching so much. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, traditional education assumes that for every ounce of teaching, so that's us at the board, explaining things, telling things, imparting knowledge, for every ounce of teaching, there's an ounce of learning by those who are taught. And it is from my experience that this is not true at all. So much more important to give space to your students to learn than it is for us to teach. Now, I'm not saying teachers are not important. That is the last thing that I want to say. You are very, very important. And but this is more about looking at a different role for us as teachers. Okay, so input. This is something I remember from the Delta. Input does not necessarily equate to intake. Okay, so acquisition. Input is not going to equate to acquisition. So the question you probably have is, how do I stop teaching so much because I'm a teacher? So the first thing that we need to think about is becoming aware of a shifting. Sorry, I'm just going to see if somebody's joining in. Right. Becoming aware of a shifting role from that traditional role of teacher, sort of presenting and giving grammar explanations, and there is definitely a place for that. I understand that. I'm not saying we stop doing that completely, but in terms of shifting that role more and more into becoming a facilitator and a coach. How do we do that? We can start creating at the lesson planning stage, focus more on tasks that run themselves. So giving your students a context. So you're in the hotel, you're meeting someone for the first time, or you're going to interview your partner, and effectively taking yourself out of the process. So as quickly as possible. So with clear instructions, realistic timing, and then necessary support to help your students to complete those tasks. We can also start to transition to implementing a more guided discovery approach. So you're probably aware of two main formulas for teaching lesson plans: present, practice, production, and test, teach, test. Or guided discovery is a lot more sort of test, teach, test, helping your students to complete the tasks that run themselves. And essentially, the main concept is giving students the freedom to learn. So I'm sure, and I remember when I started teaching, and I'm talking about the first 2-3 years of teaching, I was tied to my lesson plan. My lesson plan was like my everything. And lots of materials and following the book to the letter. And then over time, this gradual shift to giving students the freedom to experiment, to make mistakes, to grow and to develop their own language systems within themselves, because this is how language is really acquired, through playing with language and trial and error. And even when some of these aspects are in place, when you're running tasks and guiding rather than presenting, you can, if you're online, turn off your camera to give that freedom, or to create the sense of freedom, and even leave the room. I remember back in Portsmouth, in the language school there, some of my best classes I actually spent on my own having a coffee in the staff room, believe it or not, because I was confident in the principles behind the lessons that I'd created for my students. So what might this look like in practice? So this is just one example, just talk through it very quickly. So this is an example of a task that you might give your students for guided discovery, or more of a test, teach, test, teach, test type of class. So there's a paragraph here with some time connectors. And so you would motivate your students about the importance of these time connectors at their level. You know, the moment he woke up, the very moment. So these are quite nice for storytelling. And we've got a very clear context, which is what I did this morning, for example. So Richard woke up at 7:10. The moment he woke up, he could hear his son crying his eyes out. So you might give this text to the students first and say, look at the time connectors in yellow. Can you get a feel for the meaning? What's the position of those in the sentence? And you know, some related task to that. But then it's all fixed by context, so the meaning is very clear. So there's not a lot of explaining to do. You know, this is what I did this morning. And then a follow-up task is, okay, now interview your partner about their day so far. So you could do this. You could do this today if you wanted to in your classes. What have you done so far today? Interview them, and then they have to report back using they prepare. You could do this in writing. Prepare a summary about their partner, and then who had the busiest morning. So you could compare as a class. You could do this online without any problem. So that's an example of not teaching very much. Okay, the meaning is clear. The task will run itself with these simple instructions. And the students are going to discover for themselves through the context, very clear context, the meaning. You're going to guide them, of course, to fix and cement those meanings so that they can use this language for themselves. But the ownership is very much down to your students. And what does this mean for teachers? Energy, conserving energy, the opportunity to sit back and observe learning. Okay, what we're talking about is the difference between teaching and learning. Teaching does not necessarily equate to learning. But when you're running tasks like this, this is the beauty of teaching, and this is what I learned in the Delta, is when you can see learning taking place, that's when you feel really good and satisfied and fulfilled in your job. So I want to encourage you to think of a language as a bunch of Lego blocks. And our job as a teacher, more and more as you develop, you know, this is a gradual shift. It's not something you're going to master today or this week or this month. Give your students the blocks and encourage them to play. And these are the things that we can do. We can motivate them. So we can say, right, these time connectors are going to be really important if you're going to do first certificate, because they're going to help you to express yourself in more dramatic language, and you're going to get a higher score in lexis and discourse. We can guide them, so we can move around the class or drop in breakout rooms and say, great, that's a great idea. What about doing it this way? We can challenge them. So early finishers, okay, that's good. Can you add an adverb to that sentence? Could you expand on this? What about a couple of relative clauses in that paragraph? Okay, and because we're talking about language in a holistic sense, then you're able to see the needs of individual students because you're free to observe. Okay, we're not tied to lockstep teaching. Observe and feedback. Okay, during my time working with Jim, actually, in the language schools in the UK, I get to do a lot of observations of teachers, and it's one of the most common gaps in what I see in teaching is not enough feedback, not enough. So we're talking about kind of delayed correction. So the activities are very good and students are engaged, But in this new role that we're going to develop, that you're gradually going to move towards, in this new role, you're free to observe the learning and record, so on a piece of paper or in your notebook, on the board straight away, on your document, the error and also the good use of language. So not just the error, but the good use, and then feedback. And that right there is value. It's adding so much value. So if you're working with business clients, like Debbie, I know you work with business students, everything has a knock-on effect if we start by teaching a little bit less and setting up more tasks. Okay, so interesting stuff. Perhaps not what you were thinking, but it's so true. I've seen this in hundreds of observations of teachers, lots and lots of teaching, but not much learning. And the impact on how your students are going to perceive your classes, whether they're going to come back, whether they're going to feel that they are making that progress that they want to, is in your hands. And it does come down to whether we're teaching too much and not giving students enough opportunities to play and learn and experience and try and fail quickly and learn. Okay, so if you found this useful, then there's two more big secrets that I'm going to reveal, but they are in the full workshop, which you can find. Either you can buy that separately on my website. It's the keynote webinar for the 3 secrets to achieving success in TEFL, or you can go even deeper and I'll show you the steps to really engaging in effective classroom management and classroom teaching in the full course, which is called Powerful Planning Advanced. And they're all on my website, englishforpositivechange.com. I'm going to say I love you. Just throw it out there. All right. I look forward to working with you. So thanks very much for your time. See you future side. Goodbye.